Hi, Alice. Thank you for handing this over. Yves, Tobias, thank you for joining us today. So, what I would propose, I'm going to quickly introduce myself. My name is Frank Russick. I'm heading the digital trust solutions at Proximus here in Luxembourg. We basically enable the environments, being either sales channel or investor channels, in a safe manner that allow to onboard investors and clients and know who they are. But I'm honored to have actually two persons here with me who are at the forefront of digitalizing their organizations and building the future of client or investor experience from a very, very different background. And I'm also going to propose maybe to start with Yves, if you could just tell us really in a few words who you are and what you do.
Yeah. So hello, everyone. Good morning. Thank you, Frank, for having me. So first of all, I'm working with Proximus, which is the local incumbent telco provider in Belgium. I guess most of you know our name. I'm taking care of what is called billing and credit management, so which is bundling the billing activity, the collections and payment activities, and also the credit risk management, which is basically about screening new customers or fraud detection. So that is what I do in the company. We're in an operational environment, together with all other operational colleagues, taking care of contact centers and field operations.
Well, thank you so much, Yves. Yes, so you are much smaller in scale and size, I would say, at this stage, but who knows? We'll talk again in 10 years. Why don't you tell us what you're doing?
Sure. I'm co-founder of Stocker, and Stocker is basically connecting investors with ventures and projects who want to raise funds. And how did we do this? We have created like a marketplace where you as an investor can come and discover alternative assets in a wide range of asset classes. So currently you can invest into gaming projects, Bitcoin mining, and other like a hypercar company and the like. And what we did is actually we have built like a complete marketplace, as you can imagine, as Amazon, where we have different sellers and different purchasers coming, and they all have like the same user experience. And as we are talking about the financial world, we had obviously to implement a lot of KYC, AML streams, and as we are using blockchain to issue the securities, we had also like to implement whitelisting processes and the like. So we were building basically like in a digital form, like a stock exchange with the possibility to really use it just digital without needing to go to anybody in person. And I think that was like the main idea of Stocker. And now we have created, we consider us as like an alternative investment marketplace for retail as well as for professional investors.
Thank you both for the introduction. And actually that points to one aspect of things. So whether you're onboarding a telco mobile client, there are regulations around that. Since the terrorist attacks in Paris, you cannot just sell a SIM card to anybody. You must know who they are. So there's a regulatory framework. Likewise, if you work with an investor, there's a regulatory framework. So on one hand, you want to make your client investors' life convenient, but on the other hand, you have to comply with these regulations. And Yves, could you please describe to us in a few words what your business case was to going omnichannel and what the criteria?
Yeah, exactly. So I guess like most of the companies, we're also having a heavy digital agenda. It's moving a lot of our activities on the digital forefront. Maybe a difference with Tobias, who has a digital native inspiration. For us, we come from the classical channel approach and a classical interaction model, and moving into the digital world with high ambitions. So step one is to digitize also the intake of new customers. So it's making sure not only for regulatory purposes to strongly identify customers, but also for the business case was also to reduce risk. Because the starting point, we had the risk approach, which was partially manual. So if you identify customers, you have manual processes and back office activities to make sure that you limit the risk on fraud or risk on bad payers and that kind of stuff. So the goal was to say, we want to automate this and put this in the self-care and the digitized environment, but making sure that we do it in a customer-friendly and as easy as possible way and as transparent as possible way for customers. So the perimeter of the first phase of what we are doing is obviously the residential market, so the consumer market, and also mainly the consumer market. But we have the idea of also extending this to the professional market, SA, so small enterprises to start with, and then moving upwards to the higher end corpus. The case was about automating, creating efficiencies, making it easier for the customer, and speed. Because digital is also about speed. If you have, the starting point was back office processes, but then we have people sitting doing manual checks where you typically create it 1 day, 2 day, 3 days delay before accepting a new sales, which is not at all really customer friendly. If you do it digital, you have the opportunity of doing it real time and immediately accepting a new customer and onboarding a new customer. So I think that was the business case. Into terms of KPIs, it was partially financial, partially regulatory compliance, and also a heavy focus on optimizing the sales processes. And I'll explain a bit later on what the concern was there.
Okay.
That is the case we have.
Thank you so much for providing us your framework. Tobias, so what about you? I mean, how did your business case arise? It's different because Eve is obviously omnichannel. There were brick stores that existed. There's an existing infrastructure. You started from zero. So how basically did you build your business case?
Yeah, exactly. So we did not wake up one day and said, okay, we have to implement a KYC flow and to integrate whitelisting, and tomorrow let's start sprint planning, right? So basically, when we came up with the idea of using blockchain for issuing securities, it was in 2017, and we just found the tokens might be like a good way of making capital markets more accessible, especially for retail investors, but also like for smaller businesses on more alternative projects. And then we said, hey, let's create like a security token offering platform. And luckily we asked like some very smart people around us and asked around how do you do this, right? What is like a good way to set up like a business like that? And then they said, why would you do that, right? And that was like the best question in the beginning. And without a vision, without a purpose, it doesn't make sense to build a digital product. So we started like really with the idea, why would we do that, and for who should use this, and then we built like the whole product in exactly like this direction. So always like purpose orientated, always object orientated, to create a better access to alternative assets for retail investors, but also professional investors, to create more liquidity, and to limit also the risks of investing by decreasing like the intermediaries which are involved in classic capital markets. And that was the main vision, and that's how we started like to design the whole product, which you can see right now live in the internet.
So on one hand, we have Eve that has an existing product that's been involved in terms of how it's manufactured and distributed to clients. In your case, you start from scratch. You're actually building a new product from, okay. So now the journey starts basically. Now you've decided why you want to do this in a certain sense. Eve, could you share basically how you went about this journey once you knew where you wanted to go?
Yeah, basically the goal was to implement automated identification processes in all channels. Starting, what we currently already have done is implemented the automation level on the digital channel, so the web. The next steps is to complete that also for the other channels. So the contact center is a sales channel for us. Shops, physical shops are obviously a big sales channel, and indirect partners are sales channels. Is to gradually implement that platform, that identification platform, with multiple methods and multiple techniques, so that it is virtually covers 100% of the acquisition of new customers, so that we identify virtually every customer onboarding in our company through the automated and digital processes. So which is partially also explaining a bit of the complexity that a larger corporate like we are has to deal with it. It's the variety of the sales channels, the sensibilities per sales channel, the various tools that are used also per sales channel, and also various flavors. Typically, we do not only sell to Belgian residents, we also sell to foreigners. Typically, Belgium, you have a large European community, you have commuters, you have and that kind of stuff. So you also need to find solutions for lower volume but higher complex cases, which we currently are working on. So basically, that is the playing field, and the essence is a phased approach, sales channel per sales channel. So to tackle it like that, to start with the digital one, and then to roll out further in the coming, I can say, weeks now, for the other channels. First impressions have been for the web sales have been very good. So we are very happy with what we've been doing so far.
Just out of curiosity, if not on this one, Yves, why did you want to start with the digital channel?
Because from risk point of view, that is the most delicate one. It's an easy access channel, but it's an easy access channel for good customers. It's also an easy access channel for not so good customers. So that's in terms of business priority, it made sense. And we decided to tackle the most, let's say, difficult channel at first. And still happy to have made that choice.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Well, then Tobias, you actually decided you're going to stick to the difficult channel, and that's it, right? So how did you implement this with your partners? And I suppose there was co-design, things like this, yeah.
Yeah, I think as I said, we started really with mapping out the vision and the purpose, and created like a mapping around the users, how we imagine who can actually use such a platform. We created like persona mapping around, for example, a potential investor, and what kind of whether it's a digital native, what is like the purpose in the life of these users, whether they have any touch point with blockchain and the like, and around these parameters we were designing them, started like to design like user flows which would make sense from this perspective. And in the same way we tackled it also because we are a marketplace, so we have like one side like the issuers of the securities, on the other side the investors. So we're always mapping out like the requirements from really like the user perspective, and then obviously we went deeper and deeper, and went into UI and UX. And for example, for the digital KYC implementation, it was very important for us that everything is really digital, and you can go through like this whole process online without having like going to the post as it happens in Germany with post ident and the like, or even like having.
So you're saying one single manual step and you risk losing actually a lot of your clients' investors, right?
Yes, and as we are coming from this purpose approach and looking into the persona, so this person is there at 1 o'clock in the morning, right, and likes to invest, and they don't want to talk to anybody. They just like want to make it happen, and that's why also we don't have any like people calling you and saying, hey, how are you doing? Really, like the people should be able to go from A to Z, from signing up, creating, doing the KYC to creating the wallet where they receive their securities, to investing via different currencies in basically in one go during 15-20 minutes during the night, and that's like the whole purpose of the platform.
So just out of curiosity, a question to both of you. I mean, what time of have you noticed at what time of the day most people actually come and shop or invest with your platforms? Was that a surprise, or?
I don't know. Do you want to start, Yves?
Yes.
Yes.
I think it depends per channel. Obviously, the physical channels they have opening hours. A digital channel does not have. An exact spread in the 24 hours of the day. I don't have it readily available, but I do know that a lot of digital interactions are complementary in volume to the physical opening hours of the classical channels. So at the evening up till the night, we see acquisition sales happening in an automated way also at 2 o'clock in the night. So it's the spread in time is quite different, but it's logical. It's inherent to a digital channel, basically, I think. So that's right.
So what are your investors, Tobias? Any pattern you could see?
Yeah, actually, it's funny that you asked, because indeed we found out that most of our investors are really active during the night, right? So they don't sleep, but it depends a little bit also on the country per country. So like the French investors, for example, they don't sleep at all, so they are all coming during the night, where like German people on board rather like at 6 o'clock in the afternoon or something like that. So it's a little bit also different from where you actually coming. And obviously weekends are extremely important in this world, and that's why I think it's so important that it's also working 24 hours, 7 days a week. Not like a classic, for example, like a stock market, they just close at 5 o'clock somewhere on Friday, and during the weekend nothing is happening anymore. But the people have most of the time when you look into the retail market during the weekend, so it should be open 24 hours, 7 days a week, and this you can only achieve with like a digital product, right?
So, I mean, obviously, the trust solutions we offer are used in very different verticals. So we have telco here today. We have crowd, basically finance. We also talk with the people in the logistics fields and the e-health field. They're everywhere. There is this drive to onboard a client digitally if required, and it's a first impression often, so it's really important. And for example, the gaming industry is telling us that they have extremely high ambitions and speed. So somebody who wants to start gaming, usually it's not even a minute before they want to be able to start to game. So how fast do your clients actually want to be able to act? What do you think that's a time frame that they're giving you to basically be onboarded, approximately?
Yeah, I think for you can start perhaps, Frank. I think what we see there is in the telco product sales, I think there is it's not a sub-second level of expectation that they have. I think if you're in the vicinity of like the 30 seconds to 1 minute to run through an identification process, that is highly acceptable. I think it's more like you have to see it in the overall transaction time of the sales, and because a customer will spend quite a lot of minutes of figuring out what are my options and my products that I want to acquire, how do I compare all of that, and then when he wants to really conclude his sales, is make sure that you don't lose too much time in the identification process, that you offer swift identification processes via manifold techniques, because we are addressing the masses.
Right.
So you need to take in account that not everybody is equipped with the same level of technology at home before at his table. So you have people still only having the classical plastified EID cards that you need to manage. Some others are a bit more digital savvy and have using, for those who know the Belgian context, have an It's Me, which is a digital identity anchored on your mobile phone, which is obviously the swiftest and the easiest one. We're talking about 10 to 20 seconds before you're identifying yourself using that technology, up to where if you have foreigners and you have to prove your identity via other type of documents, that might take a bit of more time. So, but I think that is also accepted. Overall impression, because I think that is the sense of your question, are the techniques and the methods used fast enough to meet customer requirements? I definitely can say yes, because how do we see it? It's because in the old school way of working via back office processes, you have a significant loss into your lead to order process. People engage in a transaction, then have to wait till the next day or 2 days after, and then they lose interest or they drop their order. They have a significant drop. real-time way of working, even if it takes like 30 seconds to a minute to identify yourself in the transaction, it's immediate, it's concluded. And that was a very positive upside, because the sales channels were fearing that the technology barrier would be an embedded, would be a blocking point for customers. In reality, we see the opposite. We see that we have more qualified and more qualitative sales using the technology, which is really a bit of an unexpected upside of things.
Great, Bill. So we're talking in the telco space, so the clients will either give you a few minutes or even 10 or more to go through the process of becoming a client B2B. That's okay, it's more time in gaming. I'm wondering about finance. So I hear from the banking world that actually clients come from a world where they used to have to go to a branch to be KYC, that takes time. So they also usually are ready to take a bit of time to onboard with a financial institution. How is it in your platform, Tobias? How much time do they actually give you, do you think, to start basically investing?
Our experience is actually that the people are very, very impatient, and they want to make
too much money, right?
That's also the value proposition, right? Within 10 minutes, and when there are always like scalability issues when a lot of users come suddenly at the same time on the platform, and then you have like obviously also like a background KYC checks and so on. So this can delay the process, and the people they understand that there are like regulatory requirements, right? That there has to be like a proper process identifying the people. But I feel like the tolerance is quite low with our investors base, because also a lot of people come from the crypto world where a lot of things are very, very fast, right? They're really used to make fast transactions. They don't like to use banking solutions anymore. So they are not used like to going to the branch, talking to a person, opening an account over 3 months, and then doing an investment. They really like this instant feeling, and that's we also have to go faster and faster as long as like regulatory requirements will allow this, because when you have to send a proof of address and then there are different parties involved, then there's no choice, right? So you have to wait.
But you actually pointed to I want to ask you, it's about peaks, right? Obviously, your system's got to be peak ready. I'd be curious on both sides also to know basically what are the peaks and what are they linked to?
That is.
Is it the new iPhone?
my experience, the sales cycle is obviously driving the volume. So if we are marketing campaigning on the web or on other channels on new products, then you have a higher inflow. But it's not like a peak charge of hundreds of thousands of transactions within the same time frame. So the setting is a bit different. We are not a Google. We are not that type of setup. So peak management or response time is, in our experience, not an issue in our context. So the sales curve is easily absorbed. So which means that the technical configuration is really no issue at all in our experience. If you are a pure online company with massive volumes, that would be a higher point of attention, but that is not our experience so far. So basically, to resume that, it's on our side, it's not an issue. You don't have slow response times because of peak volumes.
What about you, Tobias? Well, you alluded to peaks. So what are they driven by, and how do you brace them?
They're actually driven by the activities of the issuers of the financial security. So like the projects behind. So when somebody is tweeting or somebody is making like a live YouTube show about the product, or about, for example, like it's as a gaming projects we have live, and when they bring out something like really new, and there's now an alpha version or a new video and the like, and then you see like peaks in the sense of, hey, there's something really moving, and the projects get more and more well known within the community, and then suddenly within 20 minutes everybody is coming on the platform and want to check out the project and potentially invest. And this is actually plannable when you talk, when you coordinate well with the projects. For us, it was a learning. So we have not done it from the beginning because we did not expect such a high increase volume of users. This year, for example, it's simply crazy. And but this is like a learning, and then you have like to scale up your systems.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Learning, the word, that was actually the next point I wanted to raise, and I want to pass it back to you, basically. What were your major learnings in this project? I mean, a lot of it was new, right? You were diving into it, and surely there's been discoveries there.
Yeah, I think the learnings have to do with the specifics of our organization, multiple sales channels. Learnings have been that after some initial discussions, we decided to phase as per sales channel, as I said. Mm-hmm. So I think a phased approach in a complex environment is really a good thing to do, rather than a big bang rollout. But that is more on the how to. The learnings also is that the thing that we had to overcome, and I think I mentioned it a bit earlier, is that identification or strong identification of credit risk management. That's also always a tension zone between sales volumes on the one hand and then financial risk that you want to manage. So the ones in banks, I think, or in other institutions, that I think that is a thing that is well known. So I think a learning for the project is not really technology, but it's about awareness and mindset. And the project has been I would say a big catalyst for creating awareness on this balance between financial risk and sales volumes, and getting on a higher level of alignment within a lot of stakeholders. And that brings me to the last point, because you might think it starts with customer identification processes or automating customer identification processes, but when you map out the stakeholders in a bigger organization, you have a lot of them. So stakeholder management is a high attention point that you need to be aware of, and on board as much as stakeholders in what you want to do is a big success. In terms of implementation, I think in our organization, the learning is that the ins and outs of identity, fraud risk, etc., is you have a number of limited specialists in the company who are well aware of that type of risks and what kind of fraudster techniques are used by fraudsters. And then you have a big bunch of people unaware of that. But basically, it has been a catalyst also for some knowledge and some insight spread on that one, which is a good thing. Phrase approach at the last point, but that has to do also with the implementation. I think has nothing to do with the technology in se. It has to do with the way of collaborating. We have virtually worked in a very agile way in implementing this, and this is really needed in such type of environment. You need to be able to swiftly iterate, and daily, weekly interactions to make it happen, because you start with a simple idea, but when you dive a bit deeper, there's a lot of stuff you need to sort out to make it happen, and to really to work on the user, an optimal user experience. That you take the customer and the customer experience as the focal point and the central point for the whole project. That is a main learning.
Yeah, we often hear that actually, that people, how they describe it, you need to have build this trust and have security aspects, but actually it should be the most invisible possible to users, i.e. clients, because most of them are actually honest, and anything that would slow down the experience is clearly disliked, right? The interesting other factor actually we've heard about is, since you need to operate in a trusted environment, actually it is partially beneficial to show a bit of security features because it creates a trust. So there's also this balance between, okay, I show that I'm actually securing stuff to my clients so they feel safe, but at the same time, basically it shouldn't hamper the experience. So, which leads me to you, I mean, to be a startup, right? I mean, you started from scratch, and I'm sure you also learned quite a few things on the way, right?
Yeah, when I would would start with what everything what we have learned over the last 3-4 years, we can talk for weeks, right? I think one of the biggest learning when it comes to tech is, and you want to create and develop like a tech feature, a digital feature on your platform, our existing platform, or when you're building it, don't leave it to the tech team, right? Only, right? So I think it's really important that you have, like, as I said, like a purpose. You set up with the team. You create like a plan and think about who actually should be involved in the development of such a tech feature, and don't leave it like only like to the hardcore development teams. That was our biggest learning. And now you have like to get the business people on board. You have to get the marketing people on board. You have to get everybody, like support team, on board. You have to create like really like a structure around it, like discuss what are like the features. Does it totally make sense? How can we use it? And then you start like to develop like really like the requirements around this feature. And then you can go deeper into how to build it, like in the back end, in the front end. And the like, but without purpose-driven development of tech features, you just end up somewhere where you don't want to be.
Mm-hmm. So client user-centric is kind of the key there, and you are out of this,
yes.
Right? Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Indeed, but just to complement, I think we had as of the start, we had UX designers, so user interface design, business process people, a lot of business people, marketeer guys, a lot of non-IT technical people involved in there, credit risk management people. So I think fully aligned with Tobias. I think that is the key. It's key to success. It's making sure that you onboard everybody or the main stakeholders in your project to make it happen.
Yeah, it's really magnificent because you always throw out the great word of what I want to use next, and my next question is about success. And Eve, I'll hand it to you if you don't mind. I mean, could you share with us like a success story out of this experience?
I think I briefly hinted upon it. I think the main one that is really was the big wow is that after the first weeks of having rolled out the identification platform in our web sales channel, I strongly remember my digital sales colleague having a big concern. Oh, we will see the sales volumes drop, because basically in the old school model, you do acquisition sales, and then you have a manual process for checking if it's good or bad customers, which is imperfect. So the big fear was, oh, we will see the net sales volumes drop. On the contrary, we have seen speed of sales and qualitative sales even increasing, which is a good thing. And I think that as soon as that was known, I think that is the thing that made everybody take it to say, okay, yes, we are doing the right thing. So which is also a big plus for the rollout to the next sales channels, because if you now go to the more classical sales channels, the dynamics are quite different there. You have either physical contact with your customers, or you have contact center. Contact center sales is also a specific attention point, because you want to identify customers via automated processes within a call. So I think we found the way to do it, but it took some reflection how to do it. But to be very honest, we also had a peek how banks did this, because they are doing the same thing, in-call identification transactions. So in some cases, the finance sector has been a bit of a source of inspiration for us to make sure we can automate this decently. Yeah.
So it doesn't cannibalize, but actually increase overall sales. Yeah, that's a great success.
Which is make it more robust, and I think that is That's the big win. That's the
So
single argument that I'm very happy to tell always.
Yeah, right. No, but it's the best argument, right? I mean, it's true. I mean, the clients feel at home in the virtual space you're creating for them. So that's that's where they live anyway. So that's that's great success. So Tobias, what was your kind of biggest win there?
I think when the funny thing is or myself, I receive an email when we have a user onboarded on our platform, and over the last 2 years or the last year, I received maybe 1 or 2 emails per week. And one day, like in January, I woke up on a Friday morning, and I had like 100 emails of 3,000, and I thought, what the fuck is happening there? And then I realized that, oh, crazy! Like the people start to onboard right now, like crazy, and since then it's always not stopping anymore. So I think like this, for me, that was like the trigger moment that, okay, hey, we built actually something which somebody wants to use, and that was like the first moment in time. And I think that's like the greatest moment when you're like an entrepreneur, that you see it at the end, like actually what you have built like over 3 years, that people want to use it.
Great, yeah, nice. It's about driving again the users towards your channel in a safe manner. I want to open now. We have like 7 minutes left. The platform to questions. I already have 1 or 2 questions arrived. The first one is actually directed towards Yves. Could you please talk about your key KPIs for success linked to your project?
Yeah, I think we had, but they are reflecting what I've been explaining. In fact, there are basically three areas. First of all there is one qualitative, which is not in a figured KPI, that is about making sure that we comply to regulatory compliance, that we are regulatory compliant on identifying customers in a decent way. So if there are any investigative actions needed, that we have you're sure to have the right data. But we measure through risk management. Do we see less fraud? So if we identify in the right way the customers, do we have less bad customers onboarding, or customers with malicious intent? First signs, you have to know, currently we see good signs. We saw less fraud, and we will measure it also in bad debt, so unpaid bills. If the quality of your sales is better, you have less unpaids. It's a bit too soon to tell, because typically it takes a couple of months before you see unpaid bills appearing, and you have to respect the sales side. But we have good hopes. The second one was about the sales evolution, but I've commented on that. Let's clearly monitor the sales, the quality of the sales, and the speed of the sales, which is clearly upwards. The third one was efficiency in the back office, because that is my native area, which is can we reduce manual workload in the back end? And that's tick on the box. Yes, that happens. And then a fourth one is something we did not discuss yet. In a company like ours, if you do your customer database, the quality of your customer info is crucial, because customer info is used in any kind of process, not only for fulfilling your orders, but also for doing any type of marketing action, mailings, for all of type of servicings, making sure that they have the right contact details or the right info on your customers for all your other business processes. And we saw definitely an increase in the quality of of the intake of new customers. So that is something that is hard to put euros on, because if you would need to convert that in OPEX savings, you talk about less waste, or less waste in all types of subsequent processes in the company. But we measure it at the source, and the quality of the database is better. So that is a bit of something that we less talk about, but it's also on our radar. So those 4.
Okay, well, that's quite impressive stuff, and I understand the part on basically getting to know your client better. That's invaluable, right? Also to build an even better experience, and it becomes a kind of virtuous cycle. Great insight. I mean, I have a question for you, Tobias. It's more fairly specific. So you talk about retail investors. Can actually professional investors also use your alternative investment platform?
Yeah, absolutely.
maybe they're different to onboard too, right?
Yes, you can sign up as a company as well as an individual, and there are no restrictions for professional investors at all. And we welcome also professional investors to use our platform. And we see also over the last few weeks, since we have a very interesting Bitcoin mining project on the platform, that professional investors also don't shy away to use like the digital route to invest, because everything is very transparent. You get all the documentation, and everything is pretty clear. And a lot of professional investors on our platform really appreciate also like this the easy access, the transparency, and also like this new technology element with blockchain technology. Yeah, indeed, that's definitely possible.
Mm. So actually, a last question before you wrap it up. It's a cross question in a certain sense. So, Tobias, would you order your next mobile or like contract and phone 100% online?
Yeah.
I think I don't even remember when I have been last time in a shop.
Okay, that answers that. And what about you, Yves? Would you invest basically 100% online?
I'll reach out to the platform of Tobias because he made me curious now. Just to fill. Yes.
Good. Okay. Well, I think we're spot on time, and there are no further questions coming in. So I really want to thank you both for these great insights and how you started your digitalization journey. It's a journey that's definitely not over. We hope that we can get more insights down the road from you. So thank you so much for this. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
I'm going to hand it back basically to the chair here. And thank you so much for the listeners. So if you have any questions, there's a breakout room which you can join Yves and Tobias. They'll be there for a few minutes. And if there are any other questions, this is going to be replayed. So don't hesitate to get in touch with us. We're all on LinkedIn. Thank you so much.